I think the key message from today's event has to do with what the U.S. can learn from other countries in general, but from Switzerland in particular, where they've actually implemented this budget rule over the course of the past decade. The problems are piling up. The things that used to be long-term, like the aging of the population and the emphasis that will create on health spending, Social Security spending, that's all beginning to happen now. At the same time, we had this economic downturn, the financial crisis, which accelerated all of these concerns. Everything is coming to a head much more rapidly than maybe we would have liked, but this is where we are now, and so we have to face these issues.
The problem with government debt is that at one point it needs to be paid back. And the government can decide to pay back in various ways, raising taxes, cutting spending. Unfortunately, some governments in the past have simply decided not to pay back the debt. And this needs to be avoided because that would be very disruptive for economic activity. The other problem is that when the government has to borrow a lot from markets, there is less room for the private sector to borrow. And this brings up interest rates, which has negative effects over the medium term for economic growth. It is in the best interest of government to take measures to avoid that public debt remains at these very high levels. This does not mean that the adjustment needs to be done in 1 or 2 years. It's going to be a very lengthy process to reduce public debt to the levels where it was before the crisis. It's going to take time, but I think, yes, it needs to be done.
That Switzerland and the Swiss people voted in 2002, and it was 2001 implemented in 2003, a debt ceiling, a debt limit, which says that their country over a period of time, of economic time, will not have a debt. And currently, when the rest of the world is incurring these tremendous national debts, Switzerland right now does not have a debt. They're actually debt-free during this year. So I think there's a lot we can learn as a very positive example of what Switzerland is doing that we need to begin doing here in the United States. And I think the world as a whole could use in order to turn this economic downturn around so that we can get back to prosperity again.
It's been working much better than I would have ever thought, because the fact that it went through a popular vote and you had a very strong buy-in by the population, 85% of the Swiss population said, yes, this is what you have to do. The federal government should not spend more than it gets in revenues. I think this gave it a very strong backing, and you have a bipartisan, well in Switzerland it's a multi-partisan support for the rule, and it has never been put into question.
Faced with challenges in a non-partisan or in a bipartisan sort of way among all parties, they came together and solved the problem. They figured out a way, a Swiss way, to solve the problem. Now, can that translate to the United States or other countries around the world who face similar challenges? The answer is yes. But the magnitude may be a little bit different. I mean, certainly the United States, because of its reserve currency nature, it provides a little bit of a challenge to just put on a debt brake or a deficit brake and assume that you're going to be able to solve the problem. But the principles about not spending more than you take in, things like that, are issues and opportunities that I think the Swiss are rightfully sharing with the rest of the world and the United States, and I think we can learn from it.
Well, that's why I'm here today, because there's lots to be learned from other countries, particularly countries like Switzerland that have a record of financial and fiscal responsibility. And so we're here to learn and listen as much as anything else and offer them the problems that we confront with the budget we've got. We had it in balance in 1997, now it's way out of balance. We hope that as we proceed over the next 4 to 5 years, we can cut the deficit in half, and we're here today to get ideas as to how the Swiss have done it so they may be applicable to us.